Hey everyone, this is Kevin from Kevin's Microfleet. Today I've got another Micro Galaxy Squadron review. We're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite vehicles that I've been waiting for from this line for the past couple of years. I'm super excited to have this in hand and to be able to break it out of the box, to be able to look at everything. I've seen lots of images of this. I've been following it since the very beginning. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Ghost. So we're going to break this thing out of the box and we'll take a look at the figures, at the vehicle, at all of the different features that it has, some of the accessories, and then we're going to do some measurements and a comparison. I cannot wait. Let's go ahead and dive into the review. So here is the outside of the box. So down here on the bottom, you've got Series 3. This is Series 3 for the Assault class, even though this is coming out as Series 6. You can see that by the white color there. Ghost 131, you got all your figures, you got the Ghost here. Over here on the right side, it shows that there are lights and sounds. And then the other great thing that they've been doing with a lot of these vehicles is they're putting the show that this is coming from up there in the top right corner, which looks really nice. As we turn this thing to the side, we get a chance to see a nice picture there of the Ghost. And then there is Sabine's TIE Fighter in the background and then shooting up some other TIEs. As we turn this around to the back, we get a chance to see all the different features of this. We're going to go through all of this. You've got the top that comes off, the cockpit that opens, the turret gun there on the top, lights and sounds, the Phantom docks, Y-Wings can dock, and then you get a bunch of other features here. You can see all of that down here on the bottom as well. As we keep turning this thing around, you get a chance to see here's those motion lights activated, and then on the bottom here is your UPC if you wanted to grab that. So let's go ahead and break this thing out of the box. So here is the interior of the package, and this is really your display scene that you get here in the background. So this does look like this could be Lethal, and then you've got the Phantom, and then you've got your two TIE fighters there flying through the background. Now this is a pretty cool background scene to be able to display with the Ghost. Just to give a quick idea here of the size of this, if you were planning on displaying it this way, this is about 15 inches long and it's 12¼ inches tall. Now, the other thing that I'm going to look at here is the instruction manual. So here is the instruction manual. You get the front here, shows the Ghost, you get your figures there, it shows where to input the batteries here underneath, I guess where the Phantom is, but we'll see. Then as you open this up, it shows all of the different features of this. I won't go through all of this, but it does show everything that you can do here in the vehicle, as well as all of the lights and sound effects. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actual vehicle itself. Now that I have this out of the box, let's go ahead and start here with the figures. So we do get 4 of the Rebels crew, which is fantastic. We get Zeb, you get Kanan, Sabine, and Hera. And so let's go ahead and take these out and take a look at them. So we'll start just left to right. So here is your Zeb figure. They did such a great job here with all of the paint apps. And you can even see the details on his arms and on his legs. Really incredible. And then even as we turn him around to the back, still more details on there. Man, I mean, just what a great figure. I was concerned about whether or not we were going to get Zeb or what he was going to look like, and they really knocked it out of the park with this figure. So then we have Kanan. Another one that they did a really good job. I mean, look at all the differences in color that you have on him. You've got the boots, you've got his knee pads, his pants, his jacket, his right arm, or his, as we're looking at it here, his right arm. You actually get the logo there on his shoulder as well, and then the hair. He's got the little ponytail on there as well. As we turn him around to the back, looks really good also. And then you get his gun there in the holster. I mean, this is just such a great figure. I can't believe the quality that they've had. As we keep moving along, we'll take a look at Sabine. So unfortunately, this Sabine has got some just black junk on her helmet there on the front. This is the one figure that that I found here just does have a mistake on it. Still did a great job here with all of the paint deco all the way around to the back. And we'll take a look at her compared to the other Sabine here in just a second, but let's take a look first at Hera, and then we get Hera here. So again, really good job with the paint application. They did awesome with this one, especially compared to the Series 2 version that we ended up getting. And so we'll spin her all the way around so you can see it. So let's take a quick look here at the Sabine. So here is your Ghost Sabine versus your Sabine from Series 2. So with Series 2, you can see just the paint deco on her chest is much better on the Series, on the Ghost version versus the Series 2 one. Although the actual face mask looks much better on the Series 2. As we turn her around, kind of the same thing. The paint application in Series 2 was improving, but it's not as good as what it is currently. And so there you go. Those are your two Sabines. And then we see something similar with the Hera. So you've got, this is the Ghost version, and then this one here on the right of the screen that you're looking at is Series 2. So with Series 2, you can see it's got just the lines aren't quite as sharp on the paint app. It does look like on the Ghost version that the white got a little bit down onto her face, but it certainly didn't get onto her head tails there. And then the paint on her legs looks much better as well. There is a slight difference there in the color. And then here's what it looks like from the back. Overall, I would say the figures here look really, really good. I'm super impressed with the quality of them. So let's take a quick measurement here of these. So here is Zeb. He is an 1 1/8 tall, which is nice to see that he's a little bit taller than the other figures. Kanan is just about an inch, maybe a smidge over an inch. You get Sabine here is an inch tall. And then Hera is also an inch tall. Great to see that they actually are scaling some of these figures relative to one another, because that helps with just the quality of the figures. So now we're going to go ahead and just dive into the actual Ghost itself. Now that we're going to take a look at the Ghost itself, I want to start here just with the exterior of this and all of the paint applications. So starting from front to back, this Ghost is definitely more colorful than you would tend to see in the show. The show does have a lot of these similar types of markings, but they're much more muted in terms of the color, and they don't pop out quite as much. But as we go along here, the one thing that's pretty amazing, you can actually see on some of this blue area that's on here, that it actually does look, and even the gray here, you can see it's got almost like this damage as if it was chipped away, which is pretty amazing to see on something that's this scale and with the amount of paint application that's on here. I mean, you can see there's tons of different colors on here. You've got just the regular actual plastic. You've got the gray on here. You've got this red, the green, the gray, yellow. I mean, it's pretty amazing that they've done all of this all the way through this ship. And here's what it looks like again from the top. And so you can see again over here on the side, as we turn this around to see the port where the Phantom shuttle would dock. You get a chance to see here are the two little peg holes and the little clips to hold that in place. And then you get your engines there, which are lighted. As we turn this thing to the side, this is actually a really cool feature. They actually have this door painted as well. So this is one of the docking ports where, you know, one of the figures could end up coming in. And then as we turn this to the front, you get a chance to see on here, you've got some details there on the cockpit, as well as this front door there, which looks really nice. I do actually like the green tint on here. While I don't know that in the show there is a green tint, it does help to make this, make the cockpit pop just a little bit more. As we turn this thing around to the bottom, and this is one where when I looked at the ATTE, there was not a whole lot going on the bottom. This has a ton going on the bottom. So you can see all of the different detail with the wash that comes out, all of the different paint application on here. Again, on the sides, on the back of this, I mean, it is really, really well done. And then again, you can see that same type of paint chipping on all of the paint, which looks really nice as well. The wash on this actually, whoop, I just turned it on. But the wash on this is really, really cool, mainly because it makes the panel lining pop a little bit more. So there is a wash that's applied to this similar to what we've seen in some of the other series, where you end up getting you know, a little bit of pooling in some of the different places, but generally speaking, this looks way, way better than previous series where it almost looked like they just dumped the wash on top of it. So that is, yeah, we'll get to that feature here in just a minute, but that is really all of the detail on this. Again, it's just, they did such a great job. So let's talk through features of this. So starting with the front, you have this little bay door that opens up that shows the little ramp. It doesn't obviously go to anywhere, but there is some detailing on the underside of the ramp as well. Then you have your little turret gun here, so not a whole lot of play in that. You can see it just moves just a little bit. Then you have your cockpit that opens. So the cockpit opens up, you get a bunch of detail on the underside as well as in the interior of the cockpit, and it does seat 5 different figures. And you've got the little port there for Chopper, which is, again, very well done to be able to fit the whole crew in here. There's no color on this, but there is the wash, which makes, again, a lot of the details really pop out at you, which looks amazing. Very well done. As we then close that, we can keep moving along to the back. So as we keep going, you end up getting a cockpit here to be able to put a figure in there to operate the turret gun, which is so cool. So this thing moves up and down. It'll also spin around. Oops, didn't clip that thing all the way shut. But this guy will turn. There we go. Moves all the way around 360 degrees, which is great. And then as we keep going back here, this is the coolest part. Oops, I didn't mean to do that, but we'll go ahead and open this up. So you pull up on the back here, and this pulls the whole front off, or the top off of this. So now we get a chance to actually see the interior. Before we look at that, let's take a look at the actual top of the vehicle itself. So on the underside, again, similar to what we've seen with other Micro Galaxy Squadron vehicles, you get a lot of detail on the underside of this. I mean, this is something that you really don't have to do anything with, but the fact that they have is just a nice little nod to, nice, there goes the background noise. It's a nice nod to the detail that they do put into these vehicles. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the actual interior. This is the first vehicle that we're getting that actually has stickers in it. So you can see the stickers that are applied on the inside here, which again, really adds an extra level of detail. So we'll take a look in here. So there is one of the rooms. There's another one. Then you get this one here. I believe that's Kanan's room, and that's supposed to be Hera. Then you get, here is, I believe this is Sabine's room. And the artwork and the detail on the artwork is just really, really cool. The fact that it goes all the way around, and there are even stickers on the front side. And then again, there is the one with Zeb on there. And that wall is blank. So pretty cool that you get that. These doors do not function, but again, they have a nice little detail to it. As we come in here, here is your light. Actually, this glows up through the bottom of this to light that canopy gun, or that the turret gun that's on top of the ship. Then you have this part here. This is the one thing I was surprised with. So these little pieces that come out actually allow for you to dock another vehicle on the outside. In order to do this, actually what you do is you pop this whole piece out, which I thought it was on a rotating hinge joint. It's not. So you take the whole piece out. You can see there's actually a little hole there on the bottom. So that will actually fit inside of this slot. So you can't flip it upside down, and then you can go ahead and plug this back in this way so that the side sticks out, so you can attach another vehicle and dock it on the side, which I'll show a little bit later as we get deeper into the video. So we put that one back in. So now as we keep going on, you've got a lounge in here, which looks really cool. Look at all of the detail on the inside of this area. I mean, this is so well done. You've got your little checkerboard table there. You've got the seats. You have a little control station, a lounge chair. And then right here is another little piece that's hidden where you can pop that up. So another little interior hidden bay, kind of like you're coming up through the bottom of the ship, the cargo portion of it, and then you come up here into the crew quarters. And then you have the door there, which would be like going out to join and dock into the Phantom. So then as we keep moving along, you obviously have the piece here that you can attach the Phantom to, which we'll do in a little bit. And then as we turn this thing around, you do get this, the landing gear. So you have 3 different landing gear here. So one here on the back, which will clip in there. Maybe. It's kind of hard to push that thing in. There you go, clips in. Then you have your 2 here on the side that clip in. And then the front here is, this part of the landing gear is just the front cargo bay door. But underneath here, this is your battery slot. So just unscrew that, pop in 3 AAA batteries, and then you're all set to go here with lights and sound. So the one thing that I would say about this, when you look at it here from the side profile, you can see that that front canopy door, or that bay door here on the front, actually sits lower than the rest of the hull. If there's any gripe that I had about this, which I love this, is that the bottom here isn't extended out to match the top. And so it's a little bit flatter, so you do need the landing gear to be able to pop out in order to actually land this. Otherwise, if it's sitting on the table, it kind of sits like this with the front sitting up in the air a little bit. But that would be mainly it. Otherwise, this is really, really cool. So let me go ahead and put the top back on. The top is kind of tricky to get on here because you have the this little gun turret has to go inside there. And so you kind of have to fit that in there and then tuck these little teeth underneath, slide this thing down in there, and then clip it in place. So there we go. So now it is all back together, and that is the Ghost. Now let's look at the electronics. So you have 2 different buttons here to be able to turn this on. As you've already heard a couple times as I've made this, after 30 seconds, it does power down. The way to turn it on, press this button. That will turn it on. It will then do the firing. So the one great thing about this is it only does firing, which is helpful if you were trying to fly this thing around and play with it. That way you can just shoot the guns. It does have a, you can see here, there are the lights on the back that are turning on, as well as there will be some lights that'll turn on inside. You can kind of see them. Let me see if I can turn this way. So there you can see the light inside the cockpit going off. There is another light that's going off inside here, inside of this ball turret, which you can see there. So turn that. Now this does have a gyroscope on it, so as you turn this to the side, it does make the sounds, and it does alternate too between a firing sound and kind of like an evasive type of a movement. If you want to accelerate it, tip it up. If you wanted to decelerate it, you tip it down. And then the other cool feature about this, if you press both buttons at the same time, it does a hyperdrive sequence, which is very cool. And then the button here on the back, this just does an alternating of different other mechanical sounds that it has. In the instruction manual, it talks about all of this and what you can do with it. I do like these sounds way better than the sounds that we get from any of the other versions that have lights and sound. just because these are a little bit more realistic and more play friendly, I would say. So as you fly this thing around, it makes a bunch of noises. Now, the other thing that this has from a sound perspective is you have your port here to put the Phantom on. So after 30 seconds of non-activation, it does that power down sound, which is really cool. They have that with the AT as well, which is a really fun feature. So here with the Phantom, you can see it's got these 6 pegs there on the bottom that will go inside of those ports. And then it has these 2 little clips on the side, which will clip in right here. So I'll turn the sound on first. So when you clip this in, it does make some noise. Which is pretty sweet. It turns the lights on as well. Unfortunately, because of the orientation of this, you cannot dock this forward. You can only put it in backwards like it is positioned right now. One of the major frustrations that some people had when they first saw this was the fact that the Phantom should sit pretty flush with the top of the vehicle. You definitely can't do that with this, mainly because of the engines. And you could see, just looking at it from this view, the only way to get this to sit lower would be either to have a non-functioning Phantom, so it would just be like a piece that just sticks on there where you can't put really any figures in it, or you would have to massively increase the size of the Ghost so that the engines were wide enough that you could actually sit the Phantom down into it. So, I mean, I would say from this perspective, I'm okay with it, because at least we now have a functioning vehicle that does fit on top of the Ghost versus having something that doesn't. So here is what it looks like from the front. And then again from the side, you can see how the Phantom just does stick out of the top of it some. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the Phantom 2. I am sure that they're going to come out with a Phantom 2 at some point to be able to attach to this as well. 2 other really cool features here to the sounds. First is that on the underside here, where the Phantom actually connects, you can see that a bunch of these holes are actually blank, but there are 2 buttons in here. If you look at the bottom of the Phantom, it actually has these little pegs, and it only has one of them that would operate the sound. So when you actually dock it, it makes that sound. Now, the one other very interesting thing is if you hit this button, it makes a totally different sound. So this gives a really good indication that we're going to end up getting the Phantom 2 shuttle that actually will have the pegs in a slightly different position to be able to utilize that button that gives you a different sound. The other thing is that this has, with the gyroscope that's in here, there are a few other features that it has if you really jiggle this thing good. So we'll go ahead and listen to these. So turn it on. So it's pretty cool to actually see all of those different sounds. Now, the way that actually shows up in the manual, or if you're looking at this, it's showing that you'd have to move this side to side. So rapidly shaking the Ghost, and you get the deflector shields, the alarm, and then explosion sounds. And the lights flash as well. So this took me a little while to figure this out, and fortunately, actually, a friend that was on Facebook saw this and was able to post it. So the other really cool features of the Ghost. Now let's go ahead and do some measurements of this, and this thing is massive. So if we're looking at this front to back, so this is a little more than, it's like 14 3/4, almost 15 inches from the back of the engine to the very front of this gun here. Then if we look at it from side to side, Side to side, it is roughly 11.5 inches. And then from a height perspective, if we're looking, I'm going to go from the top of the ball turret to the bottom of the whatever that door below the cockpit. It's probably 4.5 inches ish. It's kind of hard to get a good measurement on that. Now with the Phantom on there, it adds just a little bit more in terms of the size. If I actually go ahead and pop the landing gear back out here, we'll measure this guy. And there is another set that's coming out on Amazon, which is the Secret Mission Ghost. And that one will actually have a couple Y-wings that'll come with it. So, yeah, that's 4 3/4 inches all the way to the top from the table all the way up with the landing gear out. So there is a Secret Mission version that's going to be coming out that has 2 Y-wings that actually dock on the side with that little piece that flips around. I'll show a video of that here in just a second. And it does come with the Phantom and with Ezra and Chopper as well. So that is a great set to get if you haven't already picked it up. The link for that is actually down in the description. If you go to my Amazon storefront, you can find it in there. It's a little bit more expensive, obviously, but you get a bunch with it, which is really cool. And it has a flight stand. So with this version, because you have the stand there on the bottom and you have the landing gear, it doesn't actually come with the stand, which somewhat makes sense. That's the way that Micro Galaxy Squadron has been doing all of their vehicles. But with the Y-wings, because they're intended to be docked, it does come with a flight stand, which will be really, really cool to have for this ship. So let me go ahead and I'm going to put the figures in here, and then I'm also going to flip this around so that we can see what it looks like to have the Y-wings docked on the side. So now we've got the Ghost fully loaded here. So we have got the Y-wings attached with the little arms sticking out. I've got the full Ghost crew in here with Ezra, Chopper, Hera, Kanan, Zeb, and Sabine. So there are different size chairs for each one of them, which is really cool. So we can then go ahead and close that up. And then now I've got the Y-wings there attached to the side. Such a cool feature to add this in. It's not something that's super necessary on a vehicle like this, but it is definitely a cool detail. Then you've got the Phantom on there as well. Any vehicle that we have in Micro Galaxy Squadron that has a droid port can fit on there. So just to show that, I'll go ahead and pop this Y-wing off, and we'll take the Series 1 Luke X-Wing, and we can go ahead and pop that guy on there. So really cool that they actually have this available to where, again, you could fly this thing around and have these vehicles docked on the side. I mean, what a cool feature. So first, here is the Ghost compared to some of the other Rebels vehicles that we have, which would be our A-Wing, which is actually the Resistance A-Wing, the Sabine TIE Fighter, and the Phantom. And you can obviously see there is a massive difference here in the size. I mean, this is by far the biggest vehicle that we've got so far. I thought the AT-AT was big, and this is bigger than that. But great to be able to see this compared to those. Again, if we turn it sideways, there you can just see how those sizes match up. Now I have the Ghost compared to the Fantasy Flight Games X-Wing version of the Ghost. And so you can see what this looks like here. So this is a good example of where we get a chance to see how the bottom portion is similar to the top. And you can see there is the Phantom 2 sitting on top of that. Obviously a huge difference in size comparison. You know, this is obviously Micro Galaxy Squadron as a toy versus this is just part of a game. And you can see, again, very similar in terms of the markings that are on there. Obviously more muted colors with the Fantasy Flight Games versus what we're getting with the Micro Galaxy Squadron Ghost. But this is the only other Ghost that I have to compare to, and this was the major reason why I was so excited to be able to get this one. Let's go ahead and compare it to some of the other Assault class vehicles so you can see some comparison to that. Again, it's crazy how big this thing is. It's so big, I can barely get any of this stuff in the camera frame, and you get a chance to see how small this table is that I work off of, each time I do one of these reviews. But let's compare it first to the Millennium Falcon. So here is our Series 1 Millennium Falcon, and you can see, again, major difference in size comparison. The Millennium Falcon is much smaller than what the Ghost is. And then as we move on to the AT-AT, which was our Series 2 version of the Assault class, you can see if I put these next to one another, while the AT-AT is much taller, if you're looking at it from a front to back perspective, the Ghost definitely wins, as well as you can see the difference in how they did the wash. So the AT-AT that came in the Jazwares exclusive Vault Battle Pack is similar in terms of how they did the wash on the Ghost. And so you can see again how muted the difference is between the two. This one really has a lot of that panel lining pop. And then we have our Series 1 Dreadnought class, which again is essentially an assault class vehicle that doesn't have lights and sounds. And you can see that comparison to the Ghost as well. For the cost of the Ghost, I would say it is definitely a great buy. I am shocked that it's actually the cost that it is. I would think with all of that comes with it, it would be even more than what it currently is, but it's not. So I would highly recommend, again, everybody picking one of these up. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. That is all I have for you now that I've done my comparison. We've done some measurements. We talked about all the figures and everything. So thanks for tuning in. I look forward to catching everybody on the next review.